Okay, folks. So the coronavirus, how will it change the future? You know, I've talked a lot about, I talk a lot about our society, and a lot of the times it might seem like, it's complaining or it's seeing the faults. But the thing is, our society is sort of a work of art in a way where it's designed to give us such an illusion of freedom and prosperity when it's actually not the case at all. And it seems like we need something so incredibly drastic for us to actually wake up and see things. Especially when we're almost programmed to have this sort of delusional fake positivity about everything. It's like, oh, things could be worse. Oh, things are not that bad. And I always wonder, how bad do things need to get before you see actual reality? Because it's incredibly delusional to be negative all the time, to think that everything's bad, because it's not. Everything is never not bad. Like, there's no way everything is bad. Everything sucks. No, there's always beautiful stuff and always corrupt stuff. But you need to be able to see both. So the way our society has been programmed is like, you're just supposed to be really chipper and positive. Oh, things could be worse. I remember in my younger days, I'd be working these mundane jobs, wherever. And I'd be like, can you believe this? That this is what like an hour of my time is worth? Like, we're working these jobs and it's like, these are a literal insult to our humanity. These jobs are basically dehumanizing. That the idea that an hour of your time is worth $5 an hour, $8 an hour, $9, $11. And people around me would always be like, oh, it's not that bad. At least we have a job. Things could be worse. And I would always think, oh, wow, I guess I'm just an outsider. Well, I guess it's not going to happen. Like, there's no point. So I just stopped saying it because, now why was I saying this? And what does this have to do with the coronavirus? For years, I live in Canada, and we always get these stats saying that the average Canadian is $200 away from not being able to pay their rent. So if they have like an unforeseen emergency that month, they can't pay their rent. And people would hear these stats and they'd be like, oh, that's interesting, and move on with their day. And I would always think to myself, that's all you get from that? That stat is so messed up to hear about it. But no one really thought much about it. Oh well. And it was the same thing I used to say, working these mundane jobs, because what you get paid, what most people get paid for an hour of their time, is an insult to their humanity. But they don't see it that way. They're like, well, it's better than nothing. At least I'm not homeless. At least I have a job. Cheer up. Positivity. It's good to be positive, but you also have to be realistic to look at the situation. And I always thought it's so crazy that we have this world where, it's funny because society is basically like a pyramid scheme, but we're made to believe it's not. The way societies have always worked is that there's a few people up top who make money off of everybody at the bottom. It's just the way all society works. But you can't say that because it sounds negative. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and become an entrepreneur. You can make it. You could be a millionaire. Our system is not designed for everybody to be at the top. It just doesn't work that way. Never has, never will, the way our system is designed. It's always been designed for a few to make money off the people at the bottom. That's the way our society runs. We need people who work in retail stores and fast foods, and most people have pretty regular jobs, factory workers, right? But they're just as much of a human as somebody who's well, you know, like an engineer or whatever else they do. The idea that like a human being's worth is $9 an hour is disgusting. It's no human being is worth $9 an hour. Now, why am I saying this? Because you're supposed to be chipper and be like, at least I got a job. Things could be worse. I should be happy, right? And then all of a sudden, we get quarantined. There's a coronavirus. There's an epidemic. And now people are struggling to pay their rent. But why are people struggling to pay their rent? We live in a prosperous Western society. We should be happy and giggly, right? Everything's about prosperity. But remember what I said, that most Canadians are $200 away from not being able to pay their rent. That's really fucked up. But somehow we're made to believe that you should be positive about that and be chipper and be like, well, if I just pull myself up by my bootstraps, I could be the next millionaire. I'm one great idea away from being a millionaire. This illusion of freedom that we have is probably the most brilliant thing that exists. It's so beautiful. 99% of the people just work like monkeys for barely anything to make the other people rich. But we're made to believe we're so free and everything's so fun because you can go see a movie, buy some popcorn, you can, you feel like you can really do anything, You could go in your car and drive around, like you feel completely free. But it's really just a brilliant modern way of slavery where it's like the slavery we have now is so brilliant because most people are too blind to even see it. Because if it was old-fashioned slavery where they chained you up and they made you break rocks 24 hours a day, you'd be like, well, obviously this is slavery. But now the slavery we have now is brilliant because it looks like we're free. I can walk out right now and just walk on the streets. I seem pretty free. I can go to a store. I can do whatever I want, right? And yet, something happens where people can't work their regular jobs for a month and they can't pay their rent. Maybe now people will actually wake up and see what kind of societies we have. That they're not these super positive, everything's cool. It's a society where most people barely have enough money to pay their rent. Paycheck to paycheck, that's the way most people live. And they're one emergency away from not being able to pay their rent. But you're supposed to be really positive and chipper. Oh, things could be worse, at least got a job. Right? We're made to believe it's not that bad. But that's fucked up when most people in society are $200 away from not being able to pay their rent. If that's considered a prosperous society, then I guess, what do I know, right? Maybe I'm just wrong. Because no one seemed to understand it when I was saying it before. Like, we're working these jobs for so little. This is dehumanizing. Whoa, things are not that bad, man. Come on, cheer up. I'd be like, we're working these jobs every day with just barely enough money to pay the rent and make it to the next month. That's a life? That's a life for you? That's considered a good life for you. But maybe now people will wake up and see what's going on because we have one emergency right now and a lot of people are struggling. They're freaking out. I don't know how to pay my rent now. I've missed so much work. I've done this. So as bad as this whole coronavirus thing is, and maybe this time we'll actually make some positive changes, right? There's no guarantee, but maybe this time we'll actually make some positive changes. So one of the things that I think this coronavirus might do is speed up some ideas that we've had for a while. And they were looked at. So one of them is universal basic income, right? Now people say, whoa, yeah, that sounds like a pipe dream. Who's going to pay for a universal basic income? But the idea is to have a modern society and to have the amount of poverty we have is completely unacceptable. In a modern society that's prosperous, everyone needs to be taken care of. The idea that anybody in a modern society has to worry about basic things like shelter and food, that's not a modern society. It'll never be a modern society in my eyes. If people are $200 away from not being able to pay the rent, that's not a modern society. That's a pyramid scheme. If that's what a modern society is, a pyramid scheme, then I guess that's what, let's just all cheer up, be happy that we at least, can make it to the next month, giggle about it, be positive, and move on. Because maybe I'm just the outsider who kind of sees things differently. Because maybe I'm just a downer. Maybe I should just be really happy about the idea that 99% of the people just live paycheck to paycheck. And if I just got to get to the next month. Who knows what might happen the next month? I might win the lottery. I might have my $1 million idea, right? So I think the idea of universal basic income is a must in a modern society because people need to know that no matter what, they don't have to worry about shelter and food. Now, if you want more past that, like if you want a fancy car or like a big fancy house or like a designer clothes, whatever you want, you figure it out. Come up with your $1 million idea, come up with some sort of way to make money, have a great business, all the power to you. But in a modern society, we cannot have 99% of the people worried that they can't pay their rent from one emergency. That's absolute insanity. That'll never be a modern society to me. That's an illusion. That's a complete illusion. It looks like a modern society because we all seem like we're free and happy and giggly, but that's insanity. That's not a modern society. So there's universal basic income. To me, it's just a no-brainer. It's an absolute must. There's been talks about it for many years just because people see with trends that a lot of jobs will be lost to AI, computerized stuff. So it's just a matter of time before that happens because so many people will lose their jobs, right? But maybe this will speed up the process because this is a wake-up call, Like I said, when you kept reading those stats that most people are $200 away from not being able to pay the rent, no one blinked an eye. No one said nothing. Oh well, on to my next thing. Like, no one even said a word about it. And now when we have an actual emergency, people can't pay the rent, now people are like, wow, yeah, this really is bad. Yes, it really is bad when 99% of the people are $200 away from not being able to pay the rent. It's pretty bad. Beyond bad, it's beyond fucked up. But somehow we don't see it because we still seem free and everything's cool. And but now maybe we actually really, really see it. So universal basic income is almost a must. And another interesting thing that a lot of people have been talking about is the idea that sometime soon a lot of things will be done online, like schooling and jobs. A lot of them will be online. Well, since a lot of places have been quarantined, schooling has been done online. And I have a feeling that this will sort of speed up the process of that also. This is almost like a test run for that. So I think a lot more things will probably start moving online soon. So you have universal basic income. That to me is, in a modern society, is a no-brainer. You can't be a modern society and not have universal basic income. A lot of jobs will be done from home, schooling will be done, and we've had like a certain crisis before, like there was the stock market crash in 2008, people were freaking out, but then, the banks got the buyout and everything just went back to normal. And this time, I don't know why, but I have a feeling that this time maybe people will really see what's going on in the world. And the fact that this illusion of freedom and prosperity that we had was complete bullshit. And that most people just live paycheck to paycheck and they're barely getting by, but we're supposed to have this bullshit positive attitude that if I just pull myself up by my bootstraps and work a bit harder, maybe I can get to the top. Well, there's not room at the top for everybody, unfortunately, the way we've designed things. Because we need all the worker bees at the bottom working for $5 an hour and to stay super positive. Stay positive, guys, come on. Work hard. But that's nonsense, right? And I think we're really waking up to that now. If this doesn't wake us up, I don't know what will. So my hope going forward with this is that this is a wake-up call that we need. And we need to design better systems that help everybody. To make sure that everyone has shelter, everyone has food. Because if this doesn't wake us up, nothing will. So that's my hope going for the future, is that we design better systems to make sure everyone is taken care of. So when something like this happens, people are not terrified that they can't pay their rent and buy food. And that's it. I'll leave it at that. So as far as positivity goes, I love to be positive about change that can happen. So I'm positive that this can wake people up and we can have a better society that's fair to everybody and everyone is taken care of. I think it's possible and I hope for that, and I'll leave it at that. So see you in the next video. Bye.